Cashflow Diary Podcast, episode 441.
Welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Cashflow Diary Podcast, the podcast that teaches you insider tips, tactics, and strategies for creating leverage streams of cash flow into your life. Learn from top-performing entrepreneurs, business owners, investors, and thought leaders from across the globe as they share their secrets to success. Like what you learn on this and other Cashflow Diary podcast episodes? Go to learninvestingnow.com and sign up to receive powerful tips and information that will help you succeed as an entrepreneur and investor. Now, here's your host, investor, entrepreneur, business owner, educator, speaker, author, and master facilitator of Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow game, Jay Massey.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Cashflow Diary Podcast. I am your host, Jay Massey, and I'm glad that you're here today because, there's a business out there for nearly everybody. And some of the things that each of us that we might be absolutely afraid of, someone can totally build a business around. And I know right now you're probably wondering, what is Jay talking about? Well, I am talking about needles. What do I mean by needles? I'm saying things like tattoos. I have no capacity to even sit in the room when someone is getting a tattoo, yet some of my friends have them, my wife has them, and today we have someone who you could say would be the tattoo millionaire. In fact, he's written a book about it, and what's amazing to me is if you take a gander at his website, you'll see some amazing artwork. It's just become something completely different, and I just love it when we get to talk to artists who find a way to use their passion, turn it into a business. So I know you and I, we're going to have some fun today. We're going to learn a lot because we're going to be listening to none other than Sean Dowdell. He is the founder of Club Tattoo and the author of the book, Tattooed Millionaire, Building the Club Tattoo. We're going to have to edit that 1 second. What happened? Hold on 1 second. Just had a technical boo. All right, let's software stuff. Okay, so we are going to pick up right at Sean Dowdell, just so that you know. Here we go. I have with me today none other than Sean Dowdell. He is the founder of Club Tattoo and the author of Tattooed Millionaire, Building the Club Tattoo Empire. What does that mean? How does that happen? I don't know about you guys. Here's what I know. I know that we have learned so much from every type of entrepreneur that we've ever had here. And what I'm excited about is to hear how an artist turns their art into a business. Sean, you there?
Yes, I am, Jay. Thanks for having me on the show. I appreciate it.
I'm glad that you are here, sir. You work in a very unique space that honestly causes me all kinds of anxiety just when I think about it, because I just couldn't do what you do, man, to be honest. It's really hard. Well, but I'm glad you do it. And go ahead.
I said it's not for everybody. I understand that.
Yeah, I get that. So this being your first time here, I got to ask you the same question that I tend to ask everybody. You ready?
Sure.
All right. I tend to look at today's entrepreneurs a lot like yesterday's superheroes. Batman, Robin, Wonder Woman, etc. Because I think entrepreneurs and superheroes have a ton of things in common. Chief among them is the fact that as an entrepreneur, occasionally I can envision myself flying around town, maybe even getting dressed up, wearing capes and tights, saving our customers from themselves in various different forms. Also, like a superhero, an entrepreneur has a beginning. So if you think about a superhero, say, there was just a kid going to school, trying to get good grades, taking some photos, making sure he had some pizza money, maybe take a girl out on a date or so. And that's kind of all he was doing until one day he gets bit by the spider. He discovers, oh my gosh, I have a special ability. And then he has to decide, what am I going to do with this? Am I going to use it for good or evil? So my question to you, sir, is before the amazing artwork, before you picked up, your ink, before the book, before Club Tattoo, before everything that we know you for today, what we want to know is, who is Sean Dowdell?
Okay, that's a good question. So I am an entrepreneur that started in an industry back in the mid-90s, 1995 to be exact. I was born and raised a very low-end, middle-class, blue-collar family, had very little money, but I wouldn't say we were super poor, but we were poor enough to know we didn't have extra money. Grew up, was not a stellar student in high school. I was an accelerated student early on in my elementary and pre-high school, and then lost interest in high school and did really poorly. Graduated with a 1.81 average, which is like a C minus D average in high school. It's horrible. I just wasn't interested. And then I made it to college. I started studying philosophy, and then all of a sudden became a very good student and found a lot of interest in college. While I was in college, I started playing in the music industry, and found a passion for playing drums and created a band. And through the music industry, I really started to develop an entrepreneurial talent of promoting the band and learning how to make money with the band. The band was called Gray Days, and we put out several records. We did a couple of record deals, and the band became quite well known. And the lead singer actually ended up leaving our band in 1999 and became the lead singer for Linkin Park. And he was my very close friend and business partner up until he passed just a few months ago. His name was Chester Bennington. But in the mid-90s, when we were playing in the music industry, I learned how to leverage the fame that the band was getting. And me and the bass player decided to open up a tattoo shop while we were on the road touring with the band. The band was making money, but us personally, we were not making money. So we needed to figure out a way to make money while we were on the road with the band, so we didn't come home to just a ton of bills and bankruptcy, basically. So we decided. Okay.
Hold on. You're saying there's a lot here already. Hold on. I got to ask it because I know anyone listening is having the same experience I'm having right now. They got a couple of questions.
Sure.
One of them, you said the high school GPA was a
1.81.
And you still went to college. I find that to be an interesting decision in and of itself.
Yeah. So I lived with my parents. My parents didn't have any money. I had gotten in a really bad car accident when I was 17, missed the entire year of my senior high school year, had to learn how to walk again. I received a pretty handsome insurance settlement from that. And with that money, I was able to put myself through community college, Paradise Valley Community College, for 2 years. And then I transferred to ASU. Of course, I had to test into all that because there was absolutely no scholarship and there was no colleges knocking on my door to come to them. So it was an uphill climb, but I did it. But hold on. You're missing the point I'm making is the fact you said you lost interest at school, but yet you made an even bigger decision. You had every excuse to not go, but yet you still decided to go. That's a great point.
That's interesting to me.
Yeah, it's a great point. I think in my family, they just tried to tell me how important college was. And, they beat that into my head. And even though I didn't know why I wanted to go to college, I just knew it was better than not doing anything.
Got it. Now that I can understand. I can actually relate to that. I did the same. I'm like, I'm going. I don't know why I'm going. I ended up dropping out because I was like, I should be here. But that's a whole nother story. Now, there's something else that you said as well, which I don't think any of us, we'll call them lay people, understand, because I know very little about how the music industry works, because you said the band was making money, but you personally were not. I don't know, how aren't you a part of the band? What am I missing? There's something I don't understand.
So the band at the time, Grey Days, this is in the mid 90s, 94, 95, we were playing in front of 1,500 to 2,000 people. So we were making anywhere from $3,000 to $8,000 a show. But when we would make that money, we would put it right back into the band, our touring expenses, our hotel expenses, our recording expenses, our promotional expenses. So we weren't pulling any money out of it.
Got it. Now I understand.
Business.
Got it. So now, okay, got it. So in and of itself, it's basically like a startup that has no cash flow. Is basically what you're saying.
Correct.
Okay, that makes sense. Now I get it. But okay, so then you have to answer this next thing, because I mean, I've sat around with my friends before and we dream up things that we're going to do one day. Never did I sit around or been around anyone who's woke up one day and got, I want to do tattoos. How did that come? I mean, if you had said like, hey, I was an artist and I was always doodling and drawing in high school and this, that, and the other, that would seem like natural. But you're saying, nah, I'm going to go from drums. I think tattoos are great. I mean,
here's how that happened. So the band was doing a promotional night that we put together, that the bass player, his name was Mace, he decided, he goes, we should promote this night at this nightclub called the Electric Ballroom, and let's call it Club Tattoo. And we'll invite some of the local tattoo artists down to tattoo inside the nightclub while we play. And we built it up for about a year, and we would start drawing, like I said, 1,500 to 2,000 people. So when we were on the road, it was actually his idea. He came to me and said, we should open up a tattoo shop, because we've been promoting this tattoo night for the last year. We're starting to know a little bit about tattoos. We know how popular they're becoming, and it's something that we can do while we're gone. And it just, it happened very organically, and it seemed like, okay, it's not like we're trying to open up a Subway or a McDonald's. We didn't have the kind of money to do that. So, for very little money, we could try to open up a tattoo shop and see how it worked.
Okay, all right. So you guys yourselves, were you actually the ones doing the tattoos, or did you just bring in other artists to do that?
We did not do the tattoos when we opened. We brought in other artists that we had grown relationships with for the previous year, and brought them into to the new store.
I like this. See, this is the essence of entrepreneurship right here. I like that. You're like, I don't even have the skill set. I can't actually do you have the skill set to draw or do any of the things that are necessary for making a tattoo?
I do not. I learned how to tattoo once we opened, but I realized very quickly that I'm very competitive, and I realized I was never going to be great at tattooing. So I learned how to do piercing and jewelry design instead, but I do not tattoo.
That's awesome. And this is what I like, because sometimes we limit ourselves when we're thinking about a business, going, well, I don't know how to do X, Y, or Z, so therefore I can't do it. But you didn't have that skill set to lean on, which by default means you were building a business from the beginning, because it had to be able to operate without your involvement.
Correct. And it's very interesting. You read about like Steve Jobs, not that I'm comparing myself to him by any means, but he did something very similar. He didn't know how to program, and yet he started Apple. So he didn't know how to build computers. He just sought out people with those skill sets and kind of created his company. And I guess in a similar fashion, we did the same thing.
I think this is amazing. And you were like originally crowdsourcing and everything. You're like, hey, the people like it, so let's give them more of it.
Right.
That I get it. I totally get it. Makes perfect sense. So what was that like, finding the artist, putting it, building it, bringing it all together and making it happen?
So originally the bass player and I were going to be partners in the studio together. We were both supposed to put up about $8,000 each. He got a loan from his father. He was very irresponsible and went out and bought a new Harley with the money rather than put it into the company. So we started off very crippled. I put my money into the business like I said I was going to. He did not. So needless to say, our business partnership only lasted about 2 or 3 months before I had to buy him out and just remove him from the equation because he was crippling us on many fronts. Still friends of mine, and then we played in the band for years after that. But as business partners, we were not meant to be together. So I went alone on that one. And as far as finding the talent, that was the easy part because we had made so many relationships from promoting the night. Running the business, however, was the big challenge in the beginning because, I was a 21-year-old kid and I was still in college. And, you said that you had dropped out of college. I was in my senior year at Arizona State University with only 6 credits left to go to get my BA. And I ended up having to drop out as well. Just due to time constraints, I was still waiting tables at a restaurant to supplement my income. I was still touring in my band. And I had just opened up a business and I was trying to go to school. It was impossible time scale for me. So I dropped out of college. My parents were very upset with me and I understand why. When in the 90s, you tell your parents you're going to open up a tattoo shop, they thought it was the dumbest idea ever. But at the same time, they said, you know what, you're an adult, you got to figure out what you want to do. And that's, without taking chances, you're never going to get anywhere. So, they thought it was stupid or crazy, but at the same time, they did give me a little bit of enough rope to hang myself, so to speak.
That's good. That's good because not having that support structure, especially when you're doing something that could be considered different, is absolutely necessary and important. So tell us, how do we go from 21-year-old you to writing a book? There's definitely lots in there. Like, why write the book? What on earth are you hoping to communicate for writing the book? I mean, what has the whole world of owning Club Tattoo been for you? So
I think I've been a disruptor in my industry, and I wrote the book originally just as kind of a self-memoir of how I got to where I'm at and the journey along the way of entrepreneurialism. I ended up getting a publishing deal, which I did not expect, and now it's kind of culminated in something completely different and bigger. I originally just wanted to tell my stories and maybe self-publish a few hundred books and sell them through the stores and people who kind of know who I am. Through the music world and then through the tattoo industry and piercing industry, of course. But it kind of culminated in something bigger, like I said. What the book kind of is about is I talk about, what we talked about in the beginning, how I grew up, how I went to college, how I spent time in the music industry and how I started Club Tattoo. But then it goes into me leaving the band and how the band broke up and how Chester went on to his mega fame that he endured with Linkin Park and how we stayed friends and then eventually became business partners in Club Tattoo again. And my wife was a big part of my journey. Only after a couple of years of having Club Tattoo and running that, she came into the business as a partner with me. And we really exploded from just being a tattoo shop to becoming an icon in the tattoo and piercing industry, where we were really cutting edge and developing systems and business models that had never existed within the tattoo and piercing industry before. And eventually we became, 2 and 3 store locations, then 4, then 5, then 6, then 7. And it just kind of grew into a, $30 million company over the next 15 years. And, currently the company does just under 10 million annually. And there's not really a global tattoo and piercing brand like Club Tattoo. So we've really innovated and disrupted the industry. And that's really where the book goes. And then I talk about failure and how to deal with failure and how to understand why you failed, how not to do it again, how to learn from it, and to really call it what it is. One of the things that bothers me.
Hold on. You did it again. You keep doing this. You keep dropping so many great things all in one sentence. And I'm just like, no. I gotta ask some questions real fast. Sure. Okay. I just want to make sure I heard some things correctly, first of all, because you're saying things that are actually blowing my mind. Again, I'm an outsider looking in, because when the doctors, if I go to the doctor to get a shot and he pulls out a needle or she pulls out a needle, what ends up happening is I faint. That's literally how it goes. So the idea of understanding your world right now is like, what? I just want to make sure you said $10 million business in just tattoo? Seriously?
Hello there, entrepreneur. This is Jay Massey. I know that if you've ever gone over to the site, cashflowdiary.com, you may have asked yourself, where on earth do you get a domain name from? Especially as you are beginning to build your bigger, better, badder business, you need a web presence. You need the email address. You need a way for people to contact you electronically so that you can stop doing the @gmail.com game. Well, the good folks over at GoDaddy have definitely supplied us with every domain that we have ever used. So what I want you to do is I want you to go over to trygodaddy.com/cashflowdiary. Again, that's trygodaddy.com/cashflowdiary, because it's a quick way for you to get set up to capture your domain name the exact way that you want it. They got easy search functions, and most importantly for you is that you'll be up and running today. As I said, once you get started, stay started. Don't let small little obstacles of how to get your own domain name going stop you. So again, go to trygodaddy.com/cashflowdiary, and let's get back to the rest of the story.
Tattoo and piercing and jewelry, and that's annually.
Wow. No, I get it. I think that's amazing. And forgive my ignorance, but how much is a tattoo?
So they vary all over the place. So what I would say our shop minimum is $100, but that's basically for like a little tiny heart on your wrist or something like that. Most tattoos average about $350 at Club Tattoo. We're above the national average by about 30%. We're a high-end luxury premier brand. So you pay a little bit more for the sterility, for the trust factor, knowing that you're going to get quality work. Same with our jewelry. We carry the world's largest selection of gold and diamonds and titanium. So we're a very high-end studio. So our averages are a little bit higher than the national and global averages.
Interesting. Okay. Got it. Totally understood. So and just because I want to understand, is this all out of how many locations?
We currently have 6 studios, but we're looking to expand 10 more in the next 2 years.
Wow. Okay. Awesome. So that's amazing. So then in the process of growing Club Tattoo, you've had to deal with how do you duplicate? You have a great location, like location number 1. You're like, ooh, this is going well, so let's go to location number 2. But then you have that growth process where you go through systems aren't quite working the same, and you've got to figure that out. Is this where some of the concepts and thoughts around failure came in for you?
Oh, without a doubt. The systems that we eventually integrated into our actual business model happened quite by accident and actually by necessity. Store number 2 happened out of planning for failure. Our original location was doing very well. I'd never even thought about doing a second store. Back in 2001, the city of Tempe, Arizona, actually fought to get a light rail system put in. It's an above ground train system. And it was basically it was going to be put right in front of our store. So I fought that for about a year, and I ended up losing. Of course, you don't really win fights against the government. And so we had planned, we knew when they started the construction, it was going to last about 3 years. And we knew that it was going to put us out of business because the traffic on the street would have went from, 40,000 cars a day to virtually none. So we went and looked for a second location to hopefully move our first location to. Once we opened the second studio, we had opened in such an amazing location that it actually worked like an integrated circuit. And all of a sudden, the second location became so busy, we had to transfer overflow business back to the first location that people could barely get to. But they would go because they wanted to get work. And the second location couldn't get them in. So once we realized that business model worked, we figured out our actual systems and wrote them down, started creating our actual business model so that we could duplicate it.
I like that because, see, there's a lot of us as entrepreneurs, we feel like we have to, before we even start, we got to write all of those things out. What I'm hearing is we, for lack of a better word, flew by the seat of our pants, figured it out as we went. built the SOPs, standing operating procedures, and what it is that was going to take to be successful, only in response to understanding what our own success even looked like. Because it sounds like you guys, you just let your customers tell you, and you took clues from them.
That's exactly right, Jay. And quite honestly, I couldn't have done that without my wife's involvement, because she's the one that made me understand how important it was to develop these systems in writing. You know, I had always gone by the seat of my pants and done just kind of what popped in my head. The problem with that is the people around you, the people that you're leading, don't have a template to work off of if everything is in your mind. So if you can give them some standards to live up to that they can see, touch, and feel, it's a completely different ballgame. All of a sudden, your business can roll on without you even being there once you get it to that point. And that, to me, was the real key to our success, was understanding those systems and making sure that the people running our companies could run them without us standing over them. And once we were able to develop that, then we could multiply.
I think that's amazing, because they say that oftentimes the goal is to marry someone or be in a relationship with someone who has skill sets that are opposite yours. It sounds like this is very, very true in your case. And at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, when you're trying to build that core team for the business, what was that process like? How did you, because there's a number of entrepreneurs who have trouble entrusting their baby to someone else. But if you've made it to 6 locations, we'll call them 6 children that are out there that are more or less running without mommy and daddy, watching over them.
Yeah. So, we've actually had 10 studios total. We've sold some off and closed some locations due to, leases being up or what have you. So the 6 current that we have, it was a very, very painful process for me to entrust my partner with what I thought was my vision. But it's, after 23 years in business, I come to realize that it's our vision. Yeah, I was the founder and it was my baby at first, but what it is today is definitely because Thora and I have brought it to that point, and not just myself. So it took me years, and there were lots of fights, and working with your spouse is not something I would absolutely not recommend doing, because it can destroy your marriage. And we have had some very rough ups and downs, through that process. Right. But eventually we've become very strong together. Thank God we made it through it. But I'm not gonna lie and say it was easy. It was very difficult to let go of the reins and learn how to trust my partner. And it's been the best decision. And, at times I still have trouble doing that, but we've really learned to trust and respect each other's roles in the company now, and let each other do what each is good at.
Yeah, I get that. I get that 100%. So that's amazing. So before I go too much further, for those that have listened this far and are excited about what they're hearing and hearing how you've grown organically, et cetera, what's going to be like the best way for them to find out more, maybe even grab a copy of the book and see what you guys are up to?
So they can get a copy of Tattooed Millionaire, Building the Club Tattoo Empire on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. You can visit clubtattoo.com or SeanDowdell.com if you'd like to order it through those channels. You can find it in bookstores. Basically, if you just do a search for it, you'll find it.
Totally understood. Now, there's something that you're known for, because you I think you alluded to it earlier, because you said the word disruptor. Now, that's normally a word associated with a technology company, but yet somehow in general, you've managed to use technology, and if I may say, in a business that's probably not known for technology. You want to elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, so I actually have a couple of patents, one for jewelry design, and the second one in the technology field. I actually patented a piece of software that we developed specifically for Club Tattoo, and it's called Interactive Tattoo. Something that a lot of people would expect to find when they walk into a tattoo parlor, and we are not a parlor, but when you walk into a tattoo parlor, you'll see artwork all over their walls, and it's called tattoo flash. And that's a very typical look for a tattoo shop. When you walk in, you see the different designs of tattoos all over the wall, and you kind of pick something off the wall. We wanted a much more upscale feel. So back in 2006 and 7, I partnered up with a friend of mine named Kristen Davis, and we developed a piece of software that was a touchscreen interface and basically took the Google image model and reverse engineered the way that look and felt to the user, that they could come into our store, see, it would look like a very beautiful salon or upscale, Chanel or Louis Vuitton type atmosphere, very upscale. And there would be touch screens that they could walk up to, and there's like almost like a Ouija board looking alphabet at the top of the screen. So if you were looking for, let's say, flowers, you could hit the letter F, and then all of the predetermined categories for the designs pop out of F. So you have firefighter and flowers and everything that begins with F. You could tap the word flowers, and then all of the images for flowers will pop up and let the user look through the designs in a very linear fashion that was easily accessible for the end user. And it was a home run the moment we put it in the stores. It completely separated and gave us the differentiation we were looking for within the tattoo industry, and it completely disrupted the way now everybody's trying to copy it, but they're realizing it's very expensive to try to create something like that.
Well, they say imitation and flattery kind of somehow go together, so that's pretty good. But that does bring up a question. So, just from a business standpoint, if everyone's trying to copy it, why not license it to them?
So we did that for a few years. The problem with my industry specifically is I'm not going to give it away for free. And when we did it, when we licensed it for the first 3 years that we had, that Kristen and I formed Interactive Tattoo. And first year we sold about $154,000 worth of software. Pretty good. What I started to realize was very quickly my profit margins on the software, especially with the distribution partners, was pretty low, and I was going to need to sell about 100,000 units to start making serious money. I chose a different route, and I bought my partner out of the company to keep it proprietary to our business model. And by doing that, Club Tattoo would be able to still be the differentiation in the marketplace, because the other companies don't have $200,000 to try to develop software, and they're finding that out very quickly. This is back in 2008 when we launched the actual company side of it, and there's still nobody out there that's doing what we did.
Got it. That makes sense. So now that becomes a unique value proposition specifically for your brand, and probably assist in the valuation of the actual company as a whole.
Absolutely. It gives the customer experience a completely leverageable product.
Got it. I like it. I dig exactly what you're putting down. I love the fact that you actually don't do tattoos, and yet we're still willing and able to build a business around it. So, there's just so many lessons that I think people can glean from listening to you and picking up a copy of the book, etc. But one of the things, here's a question I want to leave everybody with, because I'm curious to hear your answer. So let's pretend for a moment that, someone listening this time, they're actually going to, they listen to you, Sean, and they're excited right now. They're like, man, I've got to do that entrepreneur thing. If he can do it, I can do it. And like I know, that when we make decisions like this, oftentimes what happens is we are met with a companion, and that companion comes in the form of a voice. It often reminds us of what we can't do, how we can't do it, why we can't do something. And for some people, they're actually related to that voice. But this time, they're going to ignore that voice. They're going to do it anyway. They're going to make it happen. And they're going to do so in the next 24 to 48 hours. So my question to you, sir, is they're finally going to follow through. What would you suggest they do?
So people ask me this type of question often, and I personally believe that 80% of any success in the business world is related to the first step of just putting something in motion. Even if it's the wrong direction, you can back up and go a different direction. What I hear most is, I'm gonna. And what I think is what needs to happen, when I hear a success story in the making, when I look at someone, I say, this person's going to succeed. It's the I'm doing. It's the actual verb rather than the hope of doing something. So I would say take the first step to whatever it is you want to do. Take the first step and make it happen. And the first step is not thinking about it. The first step is, what is my action plan to make this happen? And I need to take that first step. So do I need to sell my boat to make enough money to go put down on a lease? Or do I need to go and start looking for leases and engage into a contract? And I'm talking that if that's a brick and mortar store they're trying to do. If they're trying to make an invention, how am I going to capitalize this to be able to fund this to happen? That first step is the most important step into becoming a success, because without it, nothing happens.
I like it. I like the emphasis on action, and because there is definitely more of that that's absolutely needed and required. I definitely be the first to thank you for taking the time to be who you are, to invest, to go through the struggles, the ups and downs, and honestly being willing to share your wisdom here with us today at the Cashflow Diary.
My pleasure, Jay. Thanks for having me on.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you know what time it is. It's time for you to move at the speed of instruction. What does that mean? That means get over to clubtattoo.com. That means go pick up a copy of the book. Ultimately, it means do something. And you just heard him say that. And that's what's amazing, is that, yes, we can be in our head way too much. You can have a great idea. You can have too many I'm-a-gonnas. Well, let's turn some of the things on your to-do list to a to-done list. At the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, it's been fun talking to you today. I look forward to talking to you soon. Until next time.